ऑफ किया गया।
हेलो 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 एक्चुअली
कैन यू गो लिटिल बिट फास्टर?
AB hello hello people at the back, can you come in the front? It's only 20-minute session. I think we can stand for that time. Huh? My voice is? No, but back say people. At 20. Pranav, are you able to hear me? Nikunj. Okay. So we'll start without wasting much time. So welcome to the weekly talk series. So it is we will have this sessions every Wednesday from 3:30. So earlier we used to have this for almost an hour, where we were having two sessions. But in this new series, we'll only have one session at max, and it will be a 20 minutes thing. Again, the whole idea is we'll learn something what you've learned in our previous projects, or what new has been offered in different industries and all, and similar what technologies we have. Topic is regarding the Azure Logic Apps. So how many of you guys over here have heard about this Logic Apps? Okay, so only one project which I will be representing, the CRM attribution model. Great. So we'll start. Let's assume we have a new project. The requirements are very simple. We need to integrate social media on company's website. By this one-liner, what do you think? What are the expectations for this project? Anyone? When I say I need to integrate social media on a company website, feeds associated to. Okay. Oh, when it feeds, what are feeds? Where do I get feeds? Twitter, Facebook, anything else? RSS. Yeah. So the requirement is, I think most of us are, I believe all of us have already liked the MAQ software page. You guys see this notifications coming in. Why join MAQ software and all. So the requirement is, now if you see what happens is, how does this post come in, right? This post, someone from our team logs in a request or maybe a post over there, and then it gets updated to your Facebook. Now the requirement, now thing is, since it's in Facebook, again, there are almost a tweet every week, right? They will be lost somewhere. Now, if I want to create a central repository, what is the best possible thing if you can see which can happen? If I want to identify, merge all the tweets or the Facebook post in one single location, what is the ideal place? Any suggestions? If I want to see what else MAQ software posted Facebook, on a Twitter, on an RSS, where can I keep it? What is a central location? What is the place of MAQ software in the web? Sorry? Huh? On cloud, someone said company website. True. So we have this site, right? maqsoftware.com. We have multiple sections over there. So let's assume the most relevant to this is careers. Okay. Now, can someone, or maybe can give me an option if I want to do this seamlessly, or maybe what are the options, or whenever there is a new post on a Facebook or on Twitter, that has to be automatically added to the company's website. What are the steps involved over here? CRM attribution team, anyone? Prachi? So there will be some keywords. We'll fetch that keyword. Okay. How do I fetch that tweet? That is in Twitter. But how does the company website know that there is something in Twitter? Cool. So what Ankit is saying is there are APIs exposed by Twitter, by Facebook, by Quora. where you can query them or use some programming logic, maybe it's a C# code or a JavaScript code, and then maybe put it in our company's thing, right? Yeah, that is correct. Anything else? Any other options? Correct. So any one of you have heard of Yammer, Embed Web Part, Facebook Web Parts? Anything similar sort of? Okay, so these are something offering available by different organizations, by different platforms. But the most simplest thing, as Ankit mentioned, was we write one C# code or utility, which runs every time, goes to your Facebook account, goes to your Twitter account, and then it logs it in your database and then takes it forward. So just to summarize the steps, it is first, I query the Facebook and check if there's any new post available or not. Second is, what I do is I fetch the code and then post it in my respective application database, or most commonly SharePoint database, a SharePoint list, right? Then I'm assuming I already have the UI. If suppose there's a new entry in my SharePoint list or a database, it will automatically show in my UI. And the final step is I repeat. I just do it every single time, right? Because I do not know when does the company post an update or when someone is posting about it. Okay. Any challenges you see with this approach? Anyone? It won't be exactly real time. We'll have to trigger it. The best way to do is we schedule it every 1 second, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, right? True. What else? We will be making a lot of redundant calls. True. Yeah. So the one of a pioneer of this logic apps has given a very relevant point. What he mentions is with respect to the authentication part. So very correct. Now what happens is Facebook has its own authentication, right? Your C# code, say for your account, that same credential is not used in your Facebook account. So first thing of your query is you have to authorize your code. So it requires multiple authentication part, right? Similarly, so I do an authentication against Facebook. Now, what I do is once I get some option, similarly, my code has to do authentication against my custom application database. Now, consider a scenario if my current requirement is to only query Facebook. Now, 1 month down the line, I have a requirement of querying Twitter. What are the changes involved over here? New account required, new authentication system required, right? It's again a repeat of the logic. Similarly, I want to integrate Quora. What happens? Great. But if you see, there is a lot of redundant thing, right? There is this new offering. Okay, before that, so this, I mean, this is a typical thing, right? And similarly, I just want to see there are a lot of things which happens in the background. One of the classic things, if which is much relevant to our organization is we all know this CRC, right? Anyone who does not know what is a CRC? Everyone knows CRC, okay. When I say CRC is less than 100%, is there anything to be done from the project team? Roshan, what should we do? Check the task goes without the time. Okay. So now in current situation, how do you come to know when does a CRC goes less than 100%? How will I come to know my CRC is 100%? Which dashboard? Oh, okay. Hygiene dashboard tells me if my CRC is 100%. Is it real time? Okay. If I have a requirement that, again, the thing is hygiene dashboard, we have this TV monitors, right? The moment it goes less than 100%, over there are some projects who are showing 97%, 98%, 88% again. And if the team member realizes, oh, it's my project, it's not 100%, I do take some actions, right? Can we make it more real time? So the problem statement is, how can I notify my team? So right now, whatever we're doing, it's not a push mechanism, it's a pull mechanism. I have to see my VSO agent dashboard, I have to go to the TV indicator. Similarly, most of the projects have these tiles configured on the VSO dashboard, right? So again, it's not kind of real time. So we'll cover this. What are the possibilities which we can do? So what are logic apps? So whatever we told about, there is a new offering by Azure known as logic apps. We'll just discuss what are those. We'll have a very small demo which says, how easy it is to do the entire steps. And again, we can brainstorm n number of scenarios. So Logic Apps is a kind of an iPaaS. And in what is a SaaS? SaaS, software as a service. Then what services we know of Azure or Windows? SaaS and huh? IaaS. What is IaaS? Example of IaaS? Azure VMs, right? So iPaaS is platform as integration. So Logic Apps are nothing but kind of a platform which will help you to do something. Again, we'll discuss what exactly they will help us to do, but they are like an integrator for you. So if I want to connect Facebook and Twitter or whatever things to different APIs, to different databases, to different outsider world, this is what Logic Apps will help me to do. Again, it's like I will show you the demo. How do you configure this? It's really simple, and very few of the major advantages of Logic Apps are it is the designer is very simple. Similarly, it's used to connect your any of your APIs very seamlessly. Even if you have your own custom APIs, you can connect Logic Apps to them. Similarly, there are predefined templates. So when I say templates is, these are some common scenarios. Right? I think most of our projects have a requirement of syncing your SharePoint list with a custom on-premise database. We require custom code over here. So something this is available out of the box by Logic Apps. Similarly, it is extensible. So if you want to extensible in terms of you have a custom API which is not supported right now. Say example, if you want, let's assume for time being that Quora does not support Logic Apps does not support Quora APIs. You can create your own custom APIs which queries Quora, and you can directly plug into the Logic Apps. And last, you cannot see again real integration baked in. So these are the available APIs by Logic Apps. So when I say available APIs is you can connect your custom application to any of this offerings. If you see, we have this box, we have SharePoint Online, OneDrive, VSTS, we have Twitter, Vimeo, a lot of things. Right? GitHub, everything is over here. To exaggerate more and just specific thing, we have Facebook, GitHub, Google Calendar, Dropbox, Office 365. Last week itself, they introduced support to Power BI. So what the scenario over here is, if there is any metric on your Power BI which is above the threshold, it can send a trigger in terms of it can send you an email, it can send you an SMS that this metric has gone above 80%, gone to 60% is what you can achieve through Logic Apps. There are three main sections of Logic Apps, majorly the triggers. So when does a Logic app starts firing in terms of what is the start condition, right? So one of the request was we have to make it real time. So one option is every 1 second, every 2 seconds, I trigger them. So that is also available. Similarly, you poll for an API. There are webhook subscriptions. Anyone know what is a webhook?
You can set up notification when an event is triggered.
Yes. So what Roshan mentioned is, suppose if you write an application and there are some predefined trigger or events. So one thing, you perform the execution, but you can also send, boss, I have done something over here. So what happens is it's like an integration or API part for you guys. So anyone can actually poll to that service or maybe listen to the service, and whenever it accepts a message, it knows something has changed over here. And similarly on demand, if you want to trigger it right away. A few of the actions is when a condition happens, what are the possible actions which you have to do? So you can call any of your functions, Azure functions, manage connectors, and also the connectors which I mentioned in the previous slides. And scopes are something for how long will this run. So there are different options. One is only a predefined set of actions. You do a for each loop, you do a condition loop, and you will do until an infinite number of times execution if you want. One very common scenario, again, we are doing it day in, day out of our project when we are doing this on-premise and Azure connection. This is also available in Logic Apps. So if you see in the bottom, again, there are this on-premise system in terms of your SQL, SharePoint, even your file system. And similarly, it is extensible to non-Microsoft platform also. So you also have SAP, you also have your Google Drives and all will come, which is on-premise. There is this on-premise gateway, again, nothing to deploy ourselves, available in Azure. Your Logic Apps talks to the on-premise gateway, and depending upon your requirements, you sync with your online connections. So it could be Salesforce, Box, Azure, SQL, anything. So it could be your own personal storage online. It could be your Dropbox, OneDrive. You can sync over here. Okay. So one of the sample logic app is, as we discussed in the first requirement, that if suppose there is a new uh, Facebook post or a Twitter which has been a tweet has been fired against a particular hashtag, we need to get it run somewhere. So just for the sake of simplicity, what we have done is so for the start, so this is again available on Microsoft Azure. And created a new one is go to your web app plus mobile, and these are the apps, logic apps, mobile apps, web apps, and all. So once you click on this, you go to the designer. So this is the designer. So again, a very simple thing. So what I have done over here is we have just mentioned whenever there is a new tweet posted over here. So if you see the definition of this, so again, I just saw right now what is the recent hashtag which is available. So let's do it right. It says it will poll the Twitter for this hashtag. Right now, the frequency is every 10 hours. You can make it every 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. And if you see, I've connected using my Twitter account. So the configuration with respect to authentication is done over here. It's simply a authorization part which has been happening over here. And once this is done, whenever there is a tweet over here, so what I can do is I can send an email and just mention what subject it is. I can include dynamic content if I want. And similarly, every connector, every APIs have this special tokens. Say here it is name and tweet. Update the things, and I can send an email. So again, this is an example which sends an email. You can also have options of sending a text SMS. Similarly, if you want to update a SharePoint list, you want to update a OneDrive folder, whatever it is, you can configure over here. This is it. So I was able to do this in less than a minute, and then the entire integration starts flowing through. Just to show a demo, I did a mail. You can do SharePoint list. That's it. So whatever syncing part you want to do. So similarly, you say whenever there is a new SharePoint list item in one of your SharePoint list, I want to make an entry in your SQL Azure or maybe in your on-premise database. These are the two steps which you need to do, and you can define what is your frequency required over here. Okay, and the one which we mentioned, the original requirement of integrating the social media on company's website. So again, what the first step is, I just set up the recurrence, which says whatever my duration is. Then there's this Facebook action, which says that what do I do? Should I get a page field or should I get whenever someone posts on my timelines? Again, there are different actions to it. And then the page ID. This is the page ID of MEQ software. What are the fields? ID, created time, and all. Once again, this is connected through my Facebook account, hit my SharePoint list item. And if you see at the bottom, there's a checkbox which mentions connect via on-premise data gateway. So this says just in case if your target system is on on-premise system, you check this and provide your gateway you're connecting to. Okay. So this is it. This is the entire integration, right? Now, if you believe the estimates which we had of in terms of writing a custom utility and doing the entire part end to end, what would be your normal estimate to do that? Estimates, custom application which authenticates your Facebook, which triggers every n number of times and updates your database. What would have been your estimates over here? 3 days, provided we are a very strong coder, there are no mistakes over here, which is bound to happen, right? And one thing just to which I missed out was these apps are getting updated on a weekly basis. So there is also a YouTube series which calls about Azure Logic Apps, and where they so the last post was around I think November 23rd, where they mentioned regarding the support for Power BI apps, and similarly they are improving the performance every day and out. Okay. So just to summarize the benefits of Logic Apps, again, it's kind of a fully automated system. So you did not write any of your custom code over here, just pass on the configurations, pass on an authentication mechanism once, and it starts authenticating and starting work for us. It is easy to configure as we saw. There are two steps, drag and drop, it's done for you. You did not write your custom web service. Similarly, development is very fast and the maintenance is minimum because again, it's not something custom code. It's well tested on Microsoft team for us. We can schedule it as per there's a new post, or maybe if you want to do a poll kind of thing, it happens over here. And so one of the best thing is again we are some of our projects are already using this, but there is something known as Azure alerts. So it's if you think of this as server health check. So whenever we can configure an Azure VM, so whenever your CPU usage goes 90% or something, an Azure alert is set. So one of the supported Azure alert is like it sends an email. So again, if you want to send it to your Skype group or to your Slack group or maybe to your maybe on Yammer, your specific Yammer, this can be done directly. Group which you have connected to your Yammer, it's done for you. Any questions so far? No questions. Okay. Um, just spending last 5 minutes on this. Can you think of any scenarios in your project which can be replaced with logic apps? Which you can think of? Any project which we are doing something which can be automated through logic apps does not require custom code? BSD team, anything which you can use in our project? Sorry, I can't hear you. What is the scenario? Correct. So it's again the syncing between the SharePoint list and the on-premise database or whatever is equal. That is correct. What else? I think one of these major scenarios for most of the projects. What else?
Can it be used to refresh task scores?
Can it be used to?
Refresh task scores on our website because it takes like a day.
Correct. So as not supported right now over here, but you can create your custom applications, custom web service, hook it over there, it will be done. So you can trigger it automatically. So the custom is the thing. Yeah, I was calling out BISD because what we are doing in BISD is whenever there is an email sent to one of the mailboxes, we are creating a ticket in TFS. So again, we have a utility which runs every 3 minutes, day in, day out. So again, this is one of the scenario where I monitor a mailbox whenever a new mail comes in. Next of it, create a BSTS ticket, and if required, I can send an acknowledgement mail that your ticket is cleared. This is your ID. Anything else? And this is one of our in my project. I can do this. Anything?
We can do via the BSO itself. Yeah, BSO has it.
Correct. So yeah. So again, there are a lot of things. One classic example is your just come back later. So for example, RM, right? So whenever your build is getting deployed or whenever build is ready in your build folder, you can actually use this to deploy it on somewhere. So again, this is something our specific feature of RM. So what Nikhil Khanna mentioned was with respect to your webhooks, which you can identify whenever there's a pull request created, you can notify some of your common places, maybe a Slack channel, maybe Skype is not support that much right now, but you can put it in your project team Skype. So unless right now what we do is most of our projects, whenever there's a pull request, we say this is the pull request created. This is a manual step. The overcoming is webhooks, but again, this is what you can do in your logic apps over here. What else? Yeah, the second project requirement. So whenever you can identify, so right now if you see whatever dashboard we have, these are like not they are passive dashboard. So do not, so whenever the count goes down, right now there is no actual mechanism of I knowing that what has anything changed or not. I come to know at the end of the day, or someone points out this is not correct. So again, this could be kind of an active alert. Whenever it goes down, it goes over here. Correct.
We can use it to monitor the hybrid connections of our production and staging websites. If they go down, then there should be an email triggered at that time.
Yes, yes, that is your Azure alerts. But yes, when it's an email, it's an SMS, whatever thing. So once percent it can be done. So right now we have a custom utility which does all the hard work for us. But again, this is something which can be automated or replaced with the logic apps. I will just found few scenarios, which I already covered some of them. One is the ticketing system, which I mentioned. CRM attribution team used this to train the AML models. So right now, the AML model, if you want to, so in training an AML model is if you have more data values, you need to call a custom service exposed by them. And again, it requires a custom application, plus you have to host it on IIS site and do the refreshing. But again, this is available the logic apps. Similarly, one classic example, again, we did one POC around it, but it's kind of a sentiment analysis for social media. Here is if suppose you have a project launch or there is a conference going on, and there is this hash keyword, right? You can mention if all the posts been sent to this with the hash keyword, what is sentiment of this? Integration of your cognitive APIs, which is already integrated over here, and it mentions that what is the mood of the general public, whether it is good, bad, what is the indication over here. So if you find the comments are too negative, you can send a specific email, or this is the exact tweet sent management team over here. Okay, you need not have one person dedicatedly looking into your Twitter over here. It can be used over here. Similarly, Azure Functions, a new offering which calls out with respect to if you want to connect multiple platforms on your on-premise cloud. So much of your integration can be automated through this. Again, your daily life in terms of we do lots manual, or maybe we require some investigation. We identify options which are spending a lot of time. There is a very good chance you can replace it with Azure Logic apps. And people who know something about Microsoft Flow, anyone heard of Microsoft Flow? Microsoft, okay, something similar to Microsoft Flow, but the main idea of Azure Logic Apps is it's not only for the developers. Even your non-developer, non-technical person can simply do these options and get the things working over here. Okay, except and again, this is like a component. So if I consider this to be equivalent to a SharePoint, where gone were the days where we were creating any page from scratch. This is my article page. This is my welcome page. We did not write everything HTML head body. It is something by default as a component over here. Again, this kind of integration helps you to speed up your development. Curve is very less. As you saw, it is a simple thing. You do not require technical knowledge over here, but your entire integration part, which is happening day in day out, can be automated, can be done, and be kept on the shoulders of Azure Logic Apps. Okay, just one small thing to call out for Azure Logic Apps is it requires Azure account, so it's a paid thing. So in terms of payment is, so there are some different charts, but they charge you for around 4,000, around 250K queries, charge you around $200. So that is one of the things. But if you want to try out Logic Apps on your own for a minimum time, is what they have offered over here. We can use it without on a sample account. Similarly, if you have any idea, say one of the idea which Mohan mentioned was Tau. So again, these are the APIs. You can send it to the second link. Similarly, what are the new capabilities? Power BI, which I mentioned once, right? We have this with respect to QA framework. Whenever your metrics drop to a particular level, maybe we can think of a scenario where we can automate this using Logic Apps. Similarly, if you have any apps blog, the fifth one which I mentioned, they have this weekly talk on the YouTube channel, is that URL. And similarly, for newsletters and your Twitter, this is the address. Okay, it's a very powerful thing. Please give it a try. I am sure at least 2 scenarios which you can automate for sure. Okay. Any questions? Okay. So right now it's an Azure offering. So this is part of the logic apps, the apps, um, app servers. I'm not sure that there is this family of this which contains the apps plus the logic apps plus integration apps, but it's again from Azure only. Final. Cool. Thank you guys.
हाँ? 2 दिन से मैं अभी रात को कल रात को ये तो समझ नहीं
ऑडियंस लगता नहीं है